What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about here on a daily basis. We got some unbelievable news for you guys here today. Yeah, and I'm going to show it to you right here on the screen. We got actually several different things for you guys here. Let's jump right in. And thank you so much for liking these videos and sharing these videos. Here we go. I'll show it to you right here on the screen. Check this out. Okay, first up, let me know your thoughts on this here in the comments. Some people are going to be for this, some people are going to be against this. President Biden pardons thousands of people convicted of simple marijuana possession. You can see here directly from the New York Times. Also, you can see here Biden pardons all federal offenses of simple marijuana possession in the first major steps towards decriminalization on the federal level. This is the first steps. This was just announced here last night. Here is the details of this. Let me know your thoughts here in the comments. I know this is major stuff. I got a lot of different things here for you guys in this video. President Joe Biden is taking his first major steps towards decriminalizing marijuana, fulfilling another campaign pledge to erase prior federal possession convictions and beginning the process of potentially loosening federal classifications of the drug. Biden on Thursday pardoned all prior federal offenses of simple marijuana possession, a move that senior administration officials said would affect thousands of Americans charged with that crime. The announcement comes a month ahead of the critical November elections that will determine control of Congress, the House, and the Senate. Some candidates in particular, like Pennsylvania Democrat Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman, who's going against Republican Dr. Oz, who is running for his state's U.S. Senate seat, have made the issue of marijuana legalization central to their campaign. When Fetterman and Biden met last month, the candidate said he would raise the issue with the president. Maybe he had a convincing argument. At the same time, Democrats have sought to rebuff allegations they are soft on crime. The issue has risen to the top of some voters' agendas in certain swing districts. As part of the announcement, Biden also encouraged governors to take similar steps to pardon states' simple marijuana possession charges, a move that would potentially affect many thousand more Americans across the U.S. And the president will task the Department of Health and Human Services Attorney General Merrick Garland to expeditiously review how it will be scheduled under federal law. The first step toward potentially easing a federal classification that currently places it in the same category as heroin and LSD. Apparently, at least on the federal level. Biden says that no one should be in jail for using it or possessing it. He says, quote, "It's legal in many states, and criminal records for possession have led to needless barriers to employment, housing, and educational opportunities. And that's before you address the racial disparities around who suffers the consequences." This is what the president's saying. While white and black and brown people use it at similar rates, black and brown people are arrested, prosecuted, and convicted at disproportional rates. This is a direct quote from the president. So let me know your thoughts on this. He says, quote, "Too many lives have been upended because of our failed approach to this. It's time that we right these wrongs." Now, note that this move announced by Biden stops short of full decriminalization on the federal level, There are multiple states that have decriminalized it. You got to go get a medical license for it and have a certain amount and, that kind of thing and keep it in a certain dispenser, all that kind of stuff, right? Each state has their own law here. Yeah, and my wife said, "How would you have all this knowledge?" And I know this because we watch On Patrol, Live PD. Yeah, and we know this because we watch all of our favorite policemen, and they're pulling over people and all these. Let me know if you watch that show. It used to be called Live PD. And who's that? Who's that guy we like? The main patrol, the main host there. Yeah, Dan Abrams. We like all. My wife like knows all those policemen. She knows them all by name. Yeah, yeah. And man, those policemen, they know the law in every I mean, of course that's their job, right? But they know the law in all the states and they're like, "Oh, you got too much. You got to have it in this container and that container." And each state is different and, some states are legal and some states aren't. So, let me know your thoughts on this. So again, but on the federal level, it's illegal. So it's really it's like I mean, you can let me know your thoughts on this, but the thing is that it's still kind of like alcohol, where like you can't be using it in a car. uh, yeah, you can't be drinking and driving. It's that type of thing. Even if it's legal in your state, you can't have it like an open alcohol bottle and be driving down the road, that type of thing, even if it's legal in your state and you have, like a license for it. It's just like even if drinking, if you're over the age of 21, you can't be drinking and driving or even have an open container. So this is what the country's moving towards, at least in some states, and at least partially on the federal level. So you can let me know your thoughts here on this, but this is what is happening in our country. I know. So, you can't make this stuff up, at least for some people. Some people are outraged on this. Some people say this should have happened a long time ago. Some people say there's no way people should be in jail for this. It's literally stuff that comes right from, the earth. But you could let me know your thoughts here in the comment section. Now, if that wasn't enough, there's just so much stuff going on here in our country. You just can't make this stuff up. We'll move on to this now. The U.S. considering responses to possible Russian escalation in Ukraine, including its potential use of tactical nuclear weapons. Now, here's what the U.S. just did. The U.S. just purchased $290 million of prescription drugs for use in radiological and nuclear emergencies. So, this is how serious the White House is taking this. They just purchased $290 million of this just in case. Just in case. Here's the details. The Department of Health and Human Services says it has spent $290 million on a drug to treat radiation sickness in the event of a nuclear emergency. Like if there's a nuclear bomb that goes off and there's people that need treated for it. The Health and Human Services for Strategic Preparedness and Response announced in a Tuesday release that it bought the drug Nplate from Amgen USA Inc. as part of long-standing ongoing efforts to be better prepared to save lives following radiological and nuclear emergencies. Like Putin threatening the world to use nuclear bombs on a daily basis. Yeah, that kind of nuclear emergency. Yeah, the White House is taking this pretty seriously, guys. Acute radiation syndrome, this is why I like to show you guys this stuff right on the screen, caused by exposure to a high dose of radiation, can cause a range of symptoms. Severe cases can wreak devastating effect on the body, including destruction of bone marrow and internal bleeding, according to the CDC, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. End plate, which I've never heard of before, let me know if you have, which maybe if you're a nurse or something or doctor, which can be used for both adults and children, is aimed at reducing the uncontrolled bleeding often caused by radiation. The FDA first approved the drug in 2008 to combat an autoimmune disorder that caused serious bleeding, and extended another approval in January of just last year for use of the drug as a radiation sickness treatment. The new purchases follow growing international concern over the potential use of nuclear weapons in Russia's war on Ukraine. Russian President Vladimir Putin recently threatened that his country would take every necessary action to claim victory and would not hesitate to deploy nuclear weapons. Yeah. Ukraine's capital city of Kyiv is readying evacuation centers right now with potassium iodine pills, which can help against radiation absorption, and also prepping for potential nuclear attacks on the city. This is how serious both the White House, Ukraine, and the rest of the world is taking this. Just in case. U.S. officials have asserted that Washington would take decisive action if Russia moves to use nuclear weapons, and warned of heavy consequences for Putin. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres last month called for the era of nuclear blackmail and the global elimination of nuclear weapons in order to prevent humanitarian Armageddon. Now, I personally think that would be a really great idea, but how do you get Putin and China and other countries to actually give up all their nuclear weapons and prevent them from building even more? That's probably a pretty hard thing to do. It would be a really good thing if there were no nuclear weapons on the planet at all, because they're literally nothing but massive problems. Meanwhile, the Nord Stream pipeline, which basically exploded in the Baltic Sea and is just exploding oil into the sea, thousands and millions of gallons, was investigated by the Swedish police, and they found evidence of detonations. And Sweden's security service said that they have strengthening suspicions of gross sabotage. Yeah, Swedish and Danish authorities have been investigating 4 leaks after the pipelines, which link Russia and Germany through the Baltic Sea, have become a flashpoint in the Ukraine crisis, were damaged at the start of last week. Europe, which used to rely on Russia for about 40% of its gas, is facing a massive energy crisis now in the aftermath of Moscow's invasion of Ukraine, which has cut off supplies of the fuel after a massive standoff. They're investigating what caused the leaks as Moscow seeks to pin the blame on the West, suggesting that the United States stood to gain. The U.S. has denied any involvement. But honestly, Russia just blames everybody else for everything. I mean, like, Ukraine goes and like a school gets bombed and a hospital gets bombed, and they blame it on Ukraine every like they don't take like every single thing that happens, Russia says it's not them. Like they're in Ukraine attacking Ukraine and they say, "Oh no, it wasn't us." Like remember when they said they weren't going to invade Ukraine? Oh, we're not going to do that. And then like literally like 2 days later they invaded Ukraine. Like it's like you literally can't believe any single thing they say. You can go back and look at the list of their lies and they literally just they contradict themselves on a weekly basis. You can just go back and look at the things that say that they weren't going to do and they just have anything they said they weren't going to do, they probably did within a matter of days. Like, oh, we weren't going to attack Ukraine. And remember, they also said that they remember when they said this? Yeah, here's just like what a quick Google search came up with a few quotes from Russia and Putin. Vladimir Putin says, quote, "Of course we don't want war." As conflicting reports claim he has withdrawn his troops from the border of Russia and Ukraine before they invaded, right? Oh, how they lied. How many times Russia denied Ukraine invasion plans? Russia doesn't threaten anyone. The movement of our troops on our territory shouldn't be a cause for anyone's concern. Kremlin denies plans to invade Ukraine, alleges that NATO threats are just that. Russian presidential spokesman Dmitry Peskov says these headlines are nothing more than empty and unsustained fomenting of tensions. Russia does not harbor any aggressive plans. It is completely wrong to say the opposite. It is completely wrong to associate any movement of the Russian armed forces across the territory of our country with such plans. This is not true. Quote, Russia will not invade Ukraine. We are not going to try to disrupt that territorial integrity of Ukraine. We recognize Ukraine as a sovereign state, says Oleg Stepanov, Russian ambassador to Canada. It's just like there's literally like pages and pages and pages of this. Sergei Lavrov, Russian foreign minister. If it depends on the Russian Federation, there will be no war. We do not want wars, but we do. It's just unbelievable. You can just see pages and pages and pages of this. Yeah, so anytime you ever hear anything like, oh, Russia's blaming it on the US and saying, oh, the US did something and it's coming from Russia, you know, look at who this credible source there is. You can let me know your thoughts here on this, but oh, remember they weren't going to invade Ukraine, and they also said that and after they invaded Ukraine, they said that they weren't going to take any of the territory. They said that they were just going to liberate them from the Nazis. And remember that the president of Ukraine is Jewish and has family members who died in the Holocaust. So that's like the opposite of being a Nazi. But he wants to liberate them from being Nazis. And then he said he didn't want to take any of their territory. He just wanted to liberate them and then set them free. And now he's literally taking their territory via annexation, of which they say 99% in some of the votes voted for Russia by gunpoint, literally, because Russian soldiers went door to door and asked these people how they wanted to vote, carrying AKs in their hand. How would you vote if a Russian soldier came to vote and said, who do you want to vote for? Russia or Ukraine for this territory? Who would you vote for if they were holding AKs and came to your door? And unfortunately, this is how the world is right now. And the U.S. right now is buying hundreds of millions of dollars of nuclear drugs just in case. Just in case. So let me know your thoughts here. I'll keep you up to date here. You can't make some of the stuff up, but I want to end with a good note here. Remember a few, I don't know, maybe like a week ago at this point, we talked about a missing girl, Jasmine. I was contacted by a viewer of our channel, and she wanted to help bring Jasmine home. And she said, call your local police department. I was contacted by like a family member, and wanted me to show this picture here on our channel and said, help bring her home. This was the information. She was last seen at the George Bush Intercontinental Airport, and she was maybe in Florida. Well, maybe thanks to one of our viewers here, she was found and she was brought home safely. So, some really good news here. She was found and she's back home with her family. So, there's always, not always, but there's a happy ending here for this story. So, Jasmine is back at home, and through the goodness of God, and this story comes to a happy ending. And you know what? Maybe we'll just have a few more happy endings and a few more good stories here coming here soon. So let me know your thoughts here. And hey, I mean, there's going to be a bunch of pardons here coming from President Biden as well, and maybe a federal decriminalization here as well. So let me know your thoughts here in the comments. I'll keep you up to date here on a daily basis with what's going on here in our country. And make sure to subscribe down below to our YouTube channel. It's completely free to do so. New videos come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can click here to watch my newest video next. And you can click here to see my newest video on Social Security. An important date is coming out here for raises in a few days, actually. Yeah, a few days. Click on this video next or one of these. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.